Hello everyone, and welcome to my Duel Today official news channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Wendy's confrontation, Eli and Lani's debate, Paulina's miracle, and Steve's guilt. According to Wednesday, March 13th spoilers for Days of Our Lives, Paulina Price receives a miracle. Lani Price Grant and Eli Grant argue over the DC job offer. Steve Johnson battles his sense of guilt. Wendy Shin also brings up the exchange of vows on one's deathbed. Additionally, Sarah Horton extends an invitation to Johnny DiMera and Chanel Dupree DiMera to honeymoon at the Horton cabin. Spoilers for Paulina Price's miracle DOL for Wednesday, March 13th indicate that Abe Carver and Paulina had a visit from an angel. The angel in question turned out to be Lexi Carver, Abe's first wife. Lexi's message will have reached Abe and Paulina by the time of Wednesday's show. Then, Paulina receives wonderful news regarding her test results from her loved ones. It appears that Paulina is granted a miracle. Fans will be able to see Eli and Lani on Wednesday, March 13th. Even though Lani returned to Salem, they have no intention of staying. The pair will argue over Eli's job offer in Washington, D.C., before they leave. Eli and Lani seem to be accepting the employment offer because they are leaving again. Paulina's miraculous recovery will make Lani feel a lot better about leaving Salem. Days of Our Lives spoilers for Wednesday, March 13th indicate that Steve Johnson will still struggle with his guilt. Rafe Hernandez already believes that Ava Vitale had a hand in Clyde Weston's jailbreak. Naturally, Rafe lacks evidence and is unable to connect Black Patch to the crime at this time. That might change, as Steve and John Black are aware, and they might have to serve time in prison themselves. Fans can also anticipate that Sarah will give Janelle a honeymoon gift on Wednesday, March 13th. Sarah will recommend that Johnny and Chanel spend their honeymoon at the Horton cabin. Wendy questions Tripp about his vow of matrimony while he is being held captive. Has Tripp decided differently? Did he say it solely because he believed they were going to die? Wendy must be thinking about these queries at the moment. What will Tripp say next, and how will that affect Wendy's future? What storyline on Wednesday, March 13th are you most excited to see? Regarding Paulina, Abe, Johnny, Chanel, Eli, and Lani, what are your predictions? For Sarah, Wendy, Tripp, Steve, John, Ava, Rafe, and the other Salem residents, what does the future hold? Post your ideas in the space provided for comments below. Don't forget to keep watching Peacock Soap Opera to see what happens next. Steve is hard on himself for assisting Clyde in getting away. Could there have been another way? Updates and spoilers for Days of Our Lives hint that Steve Johnson will punish himself for assisting Clyde Weston in getting away. Despite the agreement being reached, Weston failed to fulfill his obligation, putting Wendy Shin and Tripp Johnson's lives in jeopardy. Steve Johnson unbelievably, he gave in to the lies. Steve, along with Tripp's mother Ava Vitale, finds it hard to understand that he believed Weston's falsehoods. Weston laughed at Ava as she was left at the airfield without any information. They gave no hint as to Tripp and Wendy's whereabouts, instead revealing that Weston's much younger girlfriend was Officer Rebecca Goldman, Christy St. John. They needed CPR administered by the time Steve, Ava, John Black, Rafe Hernandez, and Harris Michaels discovered them. Tripp and Wendy had been in that beer tank for several days, with no air in the last half of it, and it took all 5 of them to get them out. Steve is furious with himself because it was a wonder they found them and that they survived at all. A better approach had to have existed. John and Ava reassure Steve that there was no other way to handle this than to simply give in to Clyde's extortion. Steve is always complaining that there ought to have been. They all had to accept the possibility that Clyde wouldn't fulfill his word, and now that Ava's family has acknowledged Tripp as her son, they are also furious. Ava hopes that she won't need to speak with Eddie Vitale or Angelo Vitale, Angelo Tiff, in the future, but it made up for the occasion when Eddie testified against her. It's worth mentioning that Clyde is so despised by the mafia and gives mobsters a bad reputation due to his low-class techniques. He is truly an embarrassment. This guy needs to be defeated once and for all. They're all in agreement that someone ought to hunt this guy down and, if needed, take his tiny gun maul with him to the ends of the planet in order to finally take him out. Even though the ISA would be aware of them if they left the country, that will be easier said than done. Steve promises that he will bitterly regret not seeing Clyde and Salem again, but for the time being, all they can do is try to keep a lookout. Wendy and Tripp will receive additional police protection for the time being, but at least they are alive and well. For all of them, this was a traumatic experience that they will never forget. Steve is concerned there'll be an unveiling of John's pawn past. According to spoilers for Days of Our Lives, things in this made-up town of Salem are going to get hotter. This is due to the fact that Steve would express his concerns about John's past as a pawn and ask to speak with Paulina about it. For all the information you require, continue reading below. Steve is concerned the reconciliation of John's pawn history. The most recent issue of Soap Opera Digest claims that Steve should be extremely concerned about John recalling his former identity as the pawn and whether or not he was involved in Katharina's demise. In a recent interview, actor Stephen Nichols, who plays Steve on the popular Peacock soap opera, told the outlet that he reacts to Ava's statement that we've all done things we're not proud of by saying really bad things. Steve notices John's haunting demeanor and wonders whether he's remembering what occurred with Constantine back when he was the pawn. If that wasn't enough, according to spoilers for Days of Our Lives, Steve also feels bad about helping Clyde get out of jail. It merely exacerbates, if not outright dangerously, the current state of affairs between all of them. In his own words, Steve is aware that, with Clyde at large, he and John could be in danger should Clyde choose to inform the police about the identity of the person who freed him from prison. Steve thinks of taking extreme action. For Steve, what comes next? Steve is concerned because he knows John's guilt about Katharina may be compounding his anger about having broken Clyde out of prison, though Steve is unsure if John has any memory of it. Stephen continued. Days of Our Lives is available for streaming on Peacock. The only thing for fans to do is tune in every single day to see what will happen next. What are your thoughts on this story, please? Please share your opinions with us in the space provided below for comments. Watch this area as well since we feel like there will be a ton more juicy drama in store. Remember to check back here for all the most recent rumors and information regarding your favorite reality TV personalities, Hollywood actors, and British royals. We have everything covered. Harris had a complication likely due to leaving the hospital too soon, and when he collapsed, he did it right. He didn't wake up until Tripp and Wendy were out and safe. He's surprised to find Ava taking care of him, when he figured she'd be taking care of her son, but Ava told him he collapsed and had to have some surgery redone. Apparently, he had popped an internal stitch weakened by his trying to go after Goldman and manhandling Stefan Di Mera, Brandon Barish, in the hospital.